morning. Good morning to the Daily Huddle. Thank you all for being here. Today is June 2nd, and this is episode number, what, Sorrel?
52.
Sorrel, what time is it?
It's now.
That's the only time to be concerned about, the now. That's all we got. And it's a critical thing to begin to wake up with that notion that the only time you got is the now. I am truly excited to start the Daily Huddle today for the particular conversation that we're going to take on, and particularly also for the human being who's going to be with us today. So I always get the distinctive pleasure to open up the Daily Huddle and also to introduce the #1 executive coaching expert, my business partner and mentor for many years, Mr. Sorrel J. Catan. Good morning, Sorrel.
Good morning, Giovanni, and it's always my privilege to dance in exquisite conversations such as this with you, the #1 transformational leadership coach, my business partner, and everyone in the live virtual audience for the Daily Huddle. Sheila, welcome. Thomas, Andrea, Adriana, Gwendolyn, welcome. This may be your first time. It's great to see you here. So, Giovanni, I cannot wait to meet your guest, our guest. You know, you're now ours, Hank. So I'm kicking it right back to you, Giovanni, so you may introduce Hank. Go for it.
Thank you, Sorrel. So I really honestly mean when I say I get the distinctive pleasure to introduce Hank Stewart. So I'm going to say just a few things about him, and I want you to know that there's so much more to say about him, particularly on who he is for another human being. But I'm going to share a little bit about his personal accomplishments. And then I'm going to set us up with the question of today, which is very relevant with what we're dealing with in our society. Hank Stewart is an Emmy Award winner, best-selling author and poet. He's our expert guest today. And he's a published writer who has been called a catalyst for action and a messenger for hope. Considers spirituality, history, and love as his major influences for delivering into the world of literature. He is the founder of Walk Against the Call, which is an awareness walk to prevent breast cancer, raising more than $100,000. He's also the founder of the annual White Linen Affair, Hot Chocolate, Love John Sundays, and 5 Men on a Stool. Hank's strong presence in the community afforded him the opportunity to register over 15,000 voters. In fact, I called him yesterday and I got his voicemail. And his voicemail says, if you haven't registered to vote, hang up and then call me back. Of course, hang up and register and then call me back. That's his commitment for the opportunity that voting is. Hank has performed at the Trumpet Award and Essence Music Festival. He has written and performed commercials for the McDonald Corporation called the 365 Black. He has also written and performed African-American poetic rendition commercials for Fox 5 Atlanta, which resulted in the winning of the 2007 Emmy. These are just many of the things to say about Hank Stewart, an unbelievable human being. And he's going to start us taking on a conversation that is very relevant to us right now, which is how do we build the beloved community that Dr. Martin Luther King was talking about? Good morning, Hank.
Wow, Giovanni, I had to actually look at it again. I was like, did I send him that? I mean, how does he get all this information? So, but thank you very, very, very much, Giovanni, for it has been an honor to be now what we, more than friends, now what we call brothers now. So thank you. And Sorrel, you also, now we're part of the family. So we're all in together. We're all in it together. Let me just start by saying, great introduction. Thank you, Giovanni. But there's one piece of information that you forgot to read that was really, really important. And I think it sets the tone to the whole conversation. When I was a young man, I had a drug problem. When I was a teenager, I had a drug problem. When I was a young boy, I had a drug problem. When I was a baby, I had a drug problem. And I asked my mama where that drug problem started. She said, well, I had a drug problem too. You see, I was drugged to church, drugged to Vacation Bible School, Wednesday night prayer service, and all these other places. So I'm still addicted today. So I always tell people that's my background is church, and being drugged to church really made me who I am today. I am so honored to be here with you and Sorrel and all of your other guests. And it's an honor to be even asked. I'm going to start out by saying, giving a quote that says, "It is the responsibility of the conscious to make the unconscious conscious of their unconscious behavior." Let me say that again. It is the responsibility of the conscious to make the unconscious conscious of their unconscious behavior. Okay, I see some of y'all looking at me like I got 2 or 3 heads. Let me break it down. It's responsible of those who get it to help those who don't get it, because those who don't get it don't realize they don't get it. And so that's what the conscious people do. Conscious people bring awareness and bring the answer to folk who are looking for the answer. I'm going to talk to you just a couple of minutes about me and a couple of things that are really important to me. Purpose. Miles Monroe once said, "The greatest tragedy in life is not death, but the greatest tragedy in life is to be given life and not know why you're living." The greatest tragedy in life is not death, but the greatest tragedy in life is to be given life and not know why you're living. It is completely asinine to wake up and recognize that you have 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week, 4 weeks in a month, 12 months in a year. Multiply that time, the number of years you've been living, and you don't know why you're here. Your purpose is what's going to drive you. Purpose is so important. November the 7th, 1991, I discovered my purpose. I was a manager for UPS. I was working third shift. I'd come home that morning about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. I started peeling around my house, and I washed some dishes and threw a load of clothes in the washer, and I took a shower and I went to bed. I had worked all night long. I was a manager for UPS. I got up around 5 o'clock that evening, started getting ready to go back to work because I had an early meeting. And so I said, let me just turn on the news. And the news was the news: murder, carjacking, inflation, all the typical things you hear on the news. The weather came on. They were talking about floods and tornadoes in the Midwest that day. I'm a sports junkie. I love sports. I love football, basketball, baseball, hockey, soccer, race car driving. I love them all because I love the strategy of sports. Well, that day, Magic Johnson declared he was HIV positive. I had never in my life seen the news so bad. So I started doodling on a sheet of paper. And the very first poem that God ever blessed me with was a piece that's called "Can You Hear Me?" And the poem was very simple. It says, "Lord, there's times when nothing is going right. Lord, there's times I can't find anything good to talk about. Lord, there's times when I cry, I wonder, do you hear me? Lord, there's times I've fallen, and I wonder, did you see me? Can you hear me, Lord? Can you hear me, Sheila? Can you hear me? Just give me a sign." And very softly, Sorrel, he called my name and said, "This is why." He said, "Did you know they slapped me across my face because I heard your cry? They pierced me in my side because I heard your cry. They spit on me, Giovanni, because I heard your cry. And I died on a Friday, Mark, because I heard your cry. But I rose on a Sunday because I heard your cry. Not my child, you have it all, simply because I heard your cry." First thing that I ever wrote. So I started writing every single day after that. And what was even more important was I had just discovered my purpose. Now I know why I'm here. And so since November the 7th, 1991, I don't have bad days. I have days that are, I have growing days. It's for me, I'm not going through anything now. I'm growing through something. I'm gonna say that again. I'm not going through anything. I'm growing through something. And so everything that happens with me now, it's a lesson and it's a learn. And so Gwendolyn Mason is on this call with me, and she and I discovered about 15 years ago, a little over 15, about 17 years ago, that we saw a lot of leaders in the African-American community and the community at large, in the Bluff community, dying. And we didn't see a whole lot of youth that were taking the mantle. Who was going to take this mantle? Who were going to be the next leaders? And so we decided to start a foundation, and we started a foundation called the Stewart Foundation. And in 15 years now, we started in 2006, to this month, and in a couple of days will be our 15th anniversary. And we decided that we were going to be about the change. And we've helped over 20,000. We've touched over 20,000 students in 15 years, and we're really proud of that. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But that was a part of my purpose. I heard Sorrell say something that I thought was powerful. I'm gonna tell you how God is amazing. Giovanni asked him what time is it? He said, the only time we have now, and I'm paraphrasing, is now. I was thinking about that. I said, with this short amount of time that I have with you, and then I start thinking, I'm not talking about short amount of time from 9 to 9:30. I'm talking about in life. It's only, we have a short amount of time in life. And I start thinking about Dr. Benjamin May's quote that says, I only have a minute, only 60 seconds that I must suffer if I abuse it, give account if I lose it, just a tiny little minute, but all eternity is wrapped up in it. We only have minutes. And how we spend our minutes, how we spend our days and our time is going to be important. I work out every single day. I've already gotten up and I work out. Giovanni knows this. I got up and I worked out this morning. Today is day 1,251 straight workout days. I have not missed a day since December 30th, 2016. And when I get up every morning and I work out, whatever the workout is, it might be cutting my grass with a weight vest on. It might be, you know, on the elliptical. I burned about 650 calories this morning in about 25 minutes. So I work out. But when I'm working out, I'm also working on this right here. I'm mentally preparing myself to be all that I could possibly be today, be the best I can possibly be today. I read a quote in a book, article not too long ago, said the average person gets 30,000 days in a lifetime. Now I'm gonna mess you all up on this one, so I want you to look at this and I want you to evaluate your own personal life on this. It says the average person gets 30,000 days in a lifetime. So I read that article and I should have left it alone, but I decided to do some math. So I divided 365 into the 30,000 to get an idea of how many years it is. And it was 82, a little over 82 years. I should have left it alone. I multiplied, I'm 56 years of age. I multiplied 56 times 365 to get an idea of how many days I've used. And I've used up over 19, almost 20,000 days. Should have left it alone. I subtracted the 19,000 plus days, the 20,000 plus days from the 30,000 and came up with 9,000 some days left. Divided 365 into that 9,000 and some days left and saw 25 years that I could have left. Then I started saying, well, you know, I work out every single day. I'm in good shape. I'm gonna beat this 82. You know, I'm gonna beat it. I'm gonna beat this 82. You know, one of my mentors just passed. He was 98, Dr. Joseph Laureate. Another one of my mentors is Dr. C.T. Vivian. He's 95. My mom was 92. You know, Miss Clayton will be 90. I started saying, if they beat that 82, I'm going to beat it. And then I remember my sister died before she was 60 from breast cancer. My brother died at 65 with diabetes. Kobe Bryant died at 41. His daughter died at 13. We don't have, all we have today, like Sorrell said, is today, now. What would be your impact? Time is so important. And lastly, I'm going to talk about service, and then I'll mute and let you ask me some questions. But service, Dr. King says, if you want to be important, wonderful. If you want to be great, wonderful. If you want to be recognized, wonderful. But recognize he or she who's greatest among you should be a servant. That's the new definition of greatness. And by giving that definition of greatness, it means everyone can be great because everyone can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verbs degree to serve. You don't have to know Plato or Aristotle, Einstein theory of relativity, the second theory of thermodynamics and physics to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love, and you too can be that servant. Giving is the most important. That's that thing, man. That's that thing that gets way down deep in there. When you're giving and helping somebody with no ulterior motive, no hidden agenda, it makes life. Well, let's go biblical. Matthew 25:32-46 says, if I was hungry and you fed me, I was naked and you clothed me, I was without a place to stay and you invited me in, I was sick and you came to see about me, I was in prison, you came to visit me. And Jesus said, when would, you know, he said, when did you see me? He said, when you've done it to the least of these, you've also done it unto me. Service is the most important thing that we could do. We can give and help and render ourselves to somebody else without any hidden agenda, without wanting anything in return, but doing it because it's the right thing to do. One of the things that we're most proud of at the Stewart Foundation, Gwendolyn Mason, myself, and our entire board of directors and advisory board and volunteers and members and all of them, you know, Maureen Stubbs and all the people who worked so hard with us, Gwendolyn and I, is that we serve, and we serve with no hindrance, and we serve. The only way you can touch tomorrow today is by working with young people. Children are 20% of our population, but they're 100% of our future. I'll say that again. They're 20% of our population, but they're 100% of our future. And if you want to have a future, deal with our young people. It's more prevalent, more evident now before. We're talking to some young people, and Giovanni, I'm gonna wrap it up. I think you wanted to leave about 10 minutes. I'm at 9:18 right now, and I'll say this: we're working with some of our young people. And one of the things last night we were on a conference call, Ms. Gwendolyn and I, and one of the kids said they felt, one of the young adults, and I'm talking about, she was 35, 36 years of age, and she said the one thing that she feels is that our generation don't listen to them. We got to start listening. Thank you very much for your undivided attention, Giovanni.
Thank you so much for creating the context, for the opportunity to ask you questions, and the opportunity of how to look at the question of how we build the community that Dr. King was talking about. And what I got from what you were saying is this aspect of being of service. And I love how you set it up, you know, being extraordinary. Anyone can be great if you're willing to just serve, right? And in the current events that we're dealing with, right, this kind of a opportunity of shifting paradigms in the way we relate to each other, what, in your view, what's a way to serve for that question? How do I serve for the question of shifting the paradigm on how to relate to each other?
The first thing you got to do is we got to listen. The very first thing we got to do is we got to start listening to each other. We can't talk at each other. We got to listen and hear. We have more, Dr. King said, we have more in common than we have different. I mean, we're more alike than we're more different. And so I think when we start to listen to each other and to start hearing each other, and it's not just black and white, it's young and old, it's rich and poor, it's so many different ways that we have, I think, in which we are not listening. And so to listen to each other, we could really do some amazing things. And when we take the time to start listening to each other, talk about what is it, what are the issues, what are the real issues, what's really wrong. And when you start to hear it and you start to come up, you know, we're very intelligent folk, and we can come up with a solution. And I haven't seen anything that we can't work through. The real problem, the real obstacle is that we don't listen to each other. So I think before you start to really work on the beloved community, you've got to go in the room ready and eager to listen. Not so much to defend, but to listen.
Thank you, Hank. Sorrel, before we opened up the questions to everyone in the audience, and I know Sheila already raised her hand, is there any question you have?
I don't have a question, and I just want to say, Hank, thank you for giving each and every one of us and the world access to the eternal. In your speaking, I heard service as access to the eternal, like eternal life, eternal brotherhood, eternal contribution. So thank you for who you are in the world, and have at him, Sheila.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Hank. I think I think I've heard you before, but I want to say a couple things. You know, you spoke to some of my favorite mentors. As a matter of fact, I was up till 3 a.m. reading Dr. May's Disturbed About Man. I was reading the eulogy he delivered, you know, just inside of what we're dealing with. And Dr. King, who was a good friend of my dad. So, you know, part of, you might have answered this already, part of what, I have a 22-year-old and his friends and my nephews, and I have a lot of nephews, you know, they're talking about not voting, mostly I am just listening. I haven't tried to say anything. I've just been listening to what they're so angry and upset about around I mean, like, they're really talking about, I'm not voting. Why should I mean, like, it's like so what do you see about that? I've been like, and anything I have said or my niece has said has not made a difference. So mostly for me, I know I have been just listening, but I have not been able to impact that position that they have. And they're all in their early 20s.
That's a great question. It's a great question because we're hearing it more and more now. There's a couple of answers to that. One is, and I heard Pastor Jamal Bryan say this recently. He said that this generation has not had any wins. They haven't had any wins. And what he meant by that, during the civil rights movement, Dr. King had some wins along the way. They had the wins of ending public, gaining public accommodations, and they had the win of the Montgomery bus boycott. Even though it took 381 days, they still had a win at the end. They had a win with the voters' right bill. They had some wins. Yeah. These young people have not had any wins. They haven't had wins, meaning they see Black men and women being killed and video to show it, and nobody goes to jail. You know what I mean? Yeah. They haven't had any wins. And so we've got to give them some wins. And so wins come on a local level more than it comes on a national level. Wins come in the school board. Wins come in city council. Win comes in mayors and state representatives and all, the sheriff and who you elect as sheriff and who you elect as judge. And the reason why those are more obtainable, if we put them on, and what I tell young people, there's nothing you can do in life that voting does not impact. There's nothing. The music that you listen to, the shoes that you wear, you know, the club that you enjoy going to, somebody had to get an ordinance permit to open that. It had to go through legislation to get whatever you enjoy. Why would you not want to be involved in something that affects your life? Why would you not want to be involved when somebody can take you to jail and you don't know the sheriff? You know what I mean? So for me, the conversations that I've had with young people, and we've been able to convert a lot of y'all young people, because I break it down. We forget about the presidential level. Forget about that. Let's talk about your local level. Let's say we here in Atlanta, I know people from all over the country are listening to us, but in Atlanta, let's say you're walking down every day, trying to cross Martin Luther King Highway. Somebody gets hit by a car or killed every single day. And you elect an elected official who says, we need to put a light there or a crossing there. And now all of a sudden there's a crossing there and you can hit a button, the light would turn red and you can walk across the street safely. That's legislation. That light didn't just happen there. Somebody you elected thought they need a light there and it impacted their life. So we've got to start breaking. And that's one of the things, and I think one of the biggest things we need to do, we really need to advocate, I believe, to advocate. Why are there no civic classes in high school? Civic needs to be in high school, because we need to get our young people at an age and talk to them about civics. And that's much. Well, let's even go deeper in that. You know what? I'm 56 years old, but I went to the polls with my mom to vote. George Washington Carver Elementary School. When my mom would get up before she went to her $2 an hour job, she took us and we would go to the polls with her, and we watched her pull that little curtain behind her. Yep. You know what I mean? And she punched her levers and all that. And I got excited and I wanted to. That's why I started voting. I've been voting for 30, 40, almost 40 years now, you know, because I saw my mama vote. I saw my daddy vote. And so our kids they've got to see us do things. And so this thing starts long before you get to 22 years of age.
Yes. Great. That was good. So, and I also heard in your answer too, I heard the wins, but I heard also them having more of an understanding as to why and who. Mm-hmm. All right. Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Sheila. And thank you, Hank, for opening that up. Andrea, do you have a question or a comment?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Hank. Thank you so much for your voice and your spirit and the power that you bring to the table. helping us understand the power of civics and as citizens, the power that we have in our hands. The question that I have here comes with a little bit of background. I've been in advertising and marketing for about 22 years, and we did conduct, in my prior company, conducted a research that during the presidencies of Barack Obama, there was an increased sense of equity in the nation from the African American community. Equity and equality come together. So now, bringing it to your opinion, how can we help? Because I hear you about presidency, but start looking, thinking about your communities, and you can help your communities and teach kids. I have 2 teenagers that I'm trying to empower them to use the power of voting. How can we have a discussion, a rhetoric around equity and equality, and how are they connected, and how we can use the power of civics to help our own communities? I'm very interested in that.
That's an amazing question. It really is. You and Sheila, I don't know if y'all got together on it, because I think they kind of go. I think they really do go together. I think part of the problem that we're having with our young people is, I believe we failed on our watch. You know, I think we didn't pour and put as much back into our young people as possible. We didn't, you know, on Sunday mornings, Giovanni, Sunday morning is one of the most segregated times in America. Now, we all go to church on Sunday mornings, but we all go to our own churches. And they're usually not, you know, there's not a whole lot of intergenerational churches. And so part of the problem is our children don't see us interacting together. That's why I jumped on this when Sorrell and Giovanni asked me to do this. And I'm like, oh man, I want to do this, because it gives us an opportunity to listen and talk to each other. And so when you start talking about, when you go back to the Barack Obama administration, part of it was he created an environment, I think, that was inclusive. We all felt good and we all felt connected. You know, you look at his administration, it was very diverse. You look at his chief of staff, you look at the people that around him, you saw inclusion and you saw diversity. He would go to the favorite blight spot that you had hot dogs in DC, but he would go to the commerce clubs in other cities. You know, he would spread the wealth. He would spread the wealth. And so I think part of that is because we're not doing it. One of the things that Ms. Mason and Gwen and I try to do in our foundation is we try to make sure that we are inclusive. We spend dollars across the board, but with minorities and women. You know, we try to make sure we look at that specifically to make sure that our dollars are hitting the ground. I heard a quote that says you can't spend 98% of your money for somebody you blame 100% of your problems. You know, and so finance and wealth and diversity and resources, all of that matters. You know, and I just think that if we all get together on this, if we're what America looks like on this call. This is America on this call. And we have got to get together. If we don't, we're doomed. We're doomed. And I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hank, you know, you're getting to the heart of the matter, and there is a participant on Facebook who made this comment. If we're only looking at this through the political point of view, we're missing the heart of the matter. Now, even though it's not a question, and I don't quite know where to take it, I wanted to say it in the room so you can hear it and hear your reaction.
Whoever that person was, if you could put a like, a love by their comment, you're exactly right. Because this is not a political issue. This is a heart issue. This is a heart issue. And if your heart is not in the right place, you won't see someone's knee on someone's neck as an issue, right? This is hard. And I just, for me, I don't care what color the child is. I hate to see a child hurting. I don't care what color that child is. Black, white, red, brown, green, purple. If that child is hurting, we hurt. And so if you're not dealing I'm afraid of people who don't have a heart. I am. I'm really afraid. If everything that you do, one of the things that Ms. Mason and I talk about, we have to run a foundation, and we have to run it with our head. But if we don't run it with our heart too, we're doomed. And so, Sorrell, you hit it, whoever that person is, knocked it out the park. Once you put your heart into it, the response is different. You hear differently with your heart than with your head. You hear so much different with your heart than with your head. And so I totally agree with that. I think that's key. And that's what Dr. King talked about. It was a beloved community. A beloved community is people who love, and they love with their heart, and they move forward. I had the luxury of Dr. Joseph Laureate. Ms. Mason, she'll tell you, we used to go to his house, and I could sit down and talk to him. And most of the time, what he talked about was love. One time, Giovanni, I'm not sure if you were there no, you wouldn't, maybe, I don't think you were there. Well, it was last year. And Mariella, who's a friend of ours, she interviewed Dr. C.T. Vivian. And Dr. C.T. Vivian, she asked him, what are the things, why did they make it through the civil rights? He talked about love. It was love. The real love, the authentic love is what helped them get through. Because and Dr. Kingdom talked about it, if nonviolence, reaching back to Gandhi, if it was about love. All of that was about love. We had to love. Love can conquer hate. You can't put love and hate in the same. They can't occupy the same space. Love and hate, like light and darkness can't occupy the same space. Love and hate can't occupy the same space. So love is the key.
Thank you. There's one more we'll take if we're at 34 after. Hank and Giovanni, do you want to take one more?
I done put a suit on. Early.
You're ready to go.
I'm ready. We can go another hour and a half. And Sheila, this back in the day, we would on Saturday night, we would lay our clothes out for church on Sunday morning. Right? So I laid my clothes out, Giovanni, last night. I pressed everything. I was up early. I was really sitting in. I think Mark can tell you, I was the first one in the call. I've been waiting, so y'all don't rush off on my behalf. I'm here.
That's awesome, Hank. Thank you. Now, you've touched on the political point of view. You've talked about the heart, and this question from Facebook is talking about the economics of it. And the question is, how do we get money back into the African-American community?
Woo, now you're really up in my wheelhouse. You're all up in my wheelhouse now, for real. One thing that I think is, there used to be more African-American banks in the state of Georgia. There was Capital City, there was Carver, the Citizens Trust. I think there's only Citizens Trust now. What I suggest, in the state of Georgia, there's 30%, African-Americans make up 30% of the population in the state of Georgia, which means, and there are 10 million people in the state of Georgia, which leaves about 3 million. My immediate fix to that is everybody who doesn't have an account at a black-owned business, and not just black folk, anybody, go and take $100 and put it in Citizens Trust. If 3 million people put $100 in a bank, we blow up. When and put $100 in a bank and forgot about it, that's $300 million. Now what you have is, let's say someone wanted to open up a business. They can go to the bank and get a low interest loan and start this business. Maybe it's a grocery store, things, something that's essential in our community. And now we can start putting it. You've got to find a way you got to be very creative. And so economics drives it all. It drives it all. I mean, we can sit up here and say we want to, but money it drives everything. And so money is what ended the boycott, the bus boycott. It wasn't that we didn't get on the bus. It was that we didn't pay when we got on the bus that ended the boycott. You with me? Money drives everything. When you look at campaigns and political, when you look at churches, everything that you want to do, financial and resources drives it all. So if we made a commitment that I'm going to go and put $100 in the bank, that's $300 million. If you make a commitment that I'm going to spend if it's hard, start at 10%. 10% of my wealth is gonna go to an African American, because right now it's around 2 to 3%. Go to 10%, and what you will find when you start seeking out African American businesses, you start looking at that the majority of your money starts going in that direction, right? Because now you're conscious of it. Remember, it is the responsibility of the conscious to make the unconscious conscious of their unconscious behavior.
Very good. Thank you so much, Hank. Just a real beautiful spirit speaking on the opportunity of being effective in life. And I really love when I get a chance to be with someone like that, with a great spirit, and also speaking a language of being effective with life and effective with the opportunity of creating change. Thank you so much, Hank. I'm going to only take on one more because he raised his hand like 20 minutes ago and we haven't addressed him. And then we close it home. Thomas, you have a question or a comment? Hold on, Thomas, you're on mute. Go ahead, Thomas.
Yeah, I've got it now. I, like so many others, get involved in the community. And I also see a gross lack of listening authentically. And I think a life unlived is opportunity wasted. And part of that life unlived is not listening from the heart and the soul, and hearing not just the words, but seeing the whole person and being with that in its entirety, instead of in ourselves and running it through the filter of who we think it is, but accepting who they are authentically at the time we are with them. Just as I would want them to do with me, I choose to be with them. And this is what I got out of this, and I really appreciate the message this morning, because it really touches my heart that people are still out there doing this.
That's so
Well,
beautiful.
Thomas, I appreciate your comment. Well, I got to go back. Don't take this lightly. I'm honored. I really am. When Giovanni asked me, I'm like, what do they want to hear? What do I have to say? But when you're on the ground and trying to make an impact, you really, there's a quote that says, people who do things that count don't take the time to count them. When you do things that count, you just keep on doing it, right? And so Giovanni and Sorrell, thank you for putting not only me on there, but putting your reputation on the line. Because when you had me, you introduced me to your beloved community, to the people that you trust, and I didn't want to ruin that. I wanted to be authentic, but I didn't want to ruin, because you put your reputations on the line for me, Giovanni, and then Sorrell, and I take that with an honor. And so I really appreciate it. I would come back. I'll come back next week if you want me to. You don't have to have whoever y'all gonna have. I'll be back tomorrow. But thank you for having me. Thank you. And again, I want to thank Gwen Mason. She's on the line. She's my right hand, left hand, couple of toes, and everything like that as well. And my assistant, I think Maureen Stubbs, is on as well. And they work just as hard, if not harder, than I do. I'm Andrea, I'm just glad Sheila and Mark and Giovanni and Sorrell and everybody else Mary Pat, who's on the line. Mary, I can't wait to get your call later today and talk about how we can, because this country is going to get better because of us. It's going to get better because of us. And Edmund Burke said the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people. He said good men, but I'm going to make it, I'm going to modernize it. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men and women to do nothing, good people to do nothing. That's the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil. You cannot, if you go back and look at any game, I just looked at The Last Dance with Michael Jordan. If you take the star players and put them on the sideline, nobody wins any championships. If Michael Jordan or if Tom Brady was on the sidelines, if you put quality people on the sidelines, those teams don't win championships. Beckham, if you put them on the sideline, they don't win championships. And so the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men and women to do nothing. Too many good people are on the sidelines. They're not investing in the game. And Dr. King says, in the end, I remember not the voice of my enemies, but the silence of my friends. In the end, I remember not the voice of my enemies. I knew you didn't like me. I knew that. But what hurt me was the silence of my friends. In the end, I remember not the voice of my enemies, but the silence of my friends. So thank you very much again, Giovanni, Mark, for helping me out with my little new Facebook background that you're gonna give me. Everybody who asked a question, thank you, Cyril, and I really appreciate you all giving me a platform to speak.
Wow.
Right.
Good meeting you, Hank.
All our love.
I'm gonna be calling you too, Hank.
Okay, I look forward to it. I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Go ahead, Cyril.
Guys.
Take us home.
Well, everyone, you heard it. All it takes for evil to triumph is for good men and women to stay on the sidelines. Let that be your calling to jump on the court with us and with you by our side and with you in the corner of the good. We shall prevail. Thank you, everyone. Have an awesome day, and I'll see you tomorrow.
All righty.
Bye,
Have a good day,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank you, Hank.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Hank.
Bye.